Hey guys, I'm the Comics Kid 2099, and I wanted to do a review for you for a movie that I recently watched. This movie was called The Phantom of the Paradise, and I don't have a physical copy of it, so I'm just going to be talking to you here, and I guess the YouTube will just decide whatever the thumbnail is going to be since I'm not holding something. This movie, I've got it all pulled up right here, so I'm going to be reading it. It came out in 1974. Directed by Brian De Palma. I don't think I'm familiar with anything else that guy has done. And it stars Paul Williams, who is a musician. Mostly he's known for writing music, but he has done some singing of music. It also stars William Finley and Jessica Harper. And I don't think I'm actually familiar with any of these guys other than Paul Williams as for his music, not his acting career. And this movie... I watched the trailer for it before I watched the movie itself, and the trailer makes it seem like this is basically just a remake of The Phantom of the Opera, but set in the 1970s, centered around the pop culture of the music industry, as opposed to the theater industry of the 1800s with The Phantom of the Opera. And I want to go ahead and say I've never seen The Phantom of the Opera. I've seen adaptations many years ago. Like when I was a kid, I saw a very loose adaptation, and I don't remember much about the story, so I didn't know exactly what I was getting into with this movie. And I want to go ahead and say it's not exactly a beat-for-beat remake of The Phantom of the Opera just set in what was at the time the present day. It's not exactly that. It's a little different. So if you maybe had heard of this movie and then you're thinking, well, I don't want to see The Phantom of the Opera just set in the present day, go ahead and maybe loosen up your mind a little bit. Give it a shot, perhaps, because it's not quite that. Now, I'm going to go ahead and say this movie is not exactly what I would call a good movie. It's a very interesting movie, but I don't think it's a very good movie. Number one, the movie runs about an hour and a half long, and I would say a third of its runtime is devoted to the origin of the Phantom, or the Phantom of the Paradise, not the comic strip character from King Feature Syndicate. I would say about a third of this movie is devoted to the origin of the titular character, and that's kind of a problem. I feel like a lot of this origin stuff could have been condensed quite a bit. We could have gotten a lot of it in flashback, and I saw the trailer when I first saw this movie. I really think that the trailer makes it seem like the Phantom of the Paradise is haunting the paradise, is terrorizing the paradise, and is doing all this stuff to try and have the show that's running there at the theater go his way. The movie doesn't exactly do that. He terrorizes exactly two different times, and we get this scene where he blows up something, and then he strikes an alliance with the guy who has screwed him over and is running these shows, and then there's no more terrorizing except he kills one other guy later on. And honestly, for me, I would have rather there been a lot more of him hiding out in the theater. Nobody knows who he is, and he's doing all this stuff like killing different people who are involved in the show. And then we find out, okay, this is who that guy is. This is why he's doing that. This is why he's trying to get back at the Paul Williams character. And then maybe they can strike an alliance. And then the rest of the movie kind of sort of happens as is. I feel like thematically this movie is very interesting. This movie is about sacrificing what you have to get what you want and then finding out it wasn't worth it. I don't want to go more in detail because I would be spoiling a lot of stuff. This movie takes some really wacky, messed up turns that I did not expect, and so I don't want to spoil a lot of stuff because I want you guys to go and watch this movie. Even though, like I said, it's not exactly a good movie, it's very thought-provoking, and I think it's one of those movies I would like to watch it again sometime, but I don't know if I'll be able to, if I'm going to anytime soon, but I would like to watch it again sometime. I do think since we're criticizing this movie right now, I think the movie would have benefited a great deal. Like I said, a third of it is the origin story for this main character, and I do think that it could have been condensed, and we could have gotten some of that in flashbacks. But I think this movie would have been a lot better if the whole thing was from the point of view of the female character. Her name is Phoenix, and she's played by Catherine Harper, I think, Jessica Harper. And Phoenix is her name, and basically, I will spoil this part for you. Before the Phantom becomes disfigured and starts terrorizing the Paradise Theater, he's a normal songwriter guy, and he wants to make it big, and this big music mogul has offered him a chance to do his play, or a cantata is what it is, what they call it. It's basically a rock opera. This big music guy, Paul Williams' character, is offering him a chance to do his story at the Paradise Theater. Well, then Paul Williams basically gets a hold of the music but doesn't want the guy, and then when the guy is trying to get a hold of Paul Williams' character, Swan, he keeps trying to get a hold of him. Basically, Paul Williams arranges for this guy to be sent to a prison, and the world will just forget about him. In that way, it kind of reminds me of The Count of Monte Cristo, but then the similarities stop there. And also, there's a lot of other stuff here that is not the Phantom of the Opera that's kind of influential. There's one scene in particular that is kind of sort of, if you're familiar with the Portrait of Dorian Gray, it's kind of like that, but again, the similarities pretty much stop there. It's not like it's adapting the Portrait of Dorian Gray. There's also a lot of Faust in this, and it is not at all subtle. It's very much hitting you in the face with, look at us, we're doing the story of Faust. Look at us, we're doing the story of Faust. And maybe saying that has spoiled it a little bit if you're familiar with what Faust is. If you're not familiar, I would say watch this movie. Don't go and Google what Faust is, because that will spoil it, I think. But anyway, so the main character, the Phantom guy, before he's disfigured, while he's trying to get in touch with Swan, he meets this girl named Phoenix, who is there trying out to be the main lead, or I guess the co-lead or something. And of course, at the time, he didn't write this cantata to have a female singing this song with him. And then he likes the way that she sings, and then she finds out that in order to try out for this part, you have to have sex with either Swan or his right-hand man. I don't remember which one. And she doesn't want to do that. She just wants to get the job honestly. She doesn't want to get the job via some way that doesn't involve her using her singing talents. And so she's very upset, very dismayed, and then she leaves, and then the other guy, the Phantom guy, he goes to jail, and it's unclear exactly how long. It may have said in the movie how much time passes while he's in jail. I feel like it was probably half a year. I don't think it's any more than that. And then he escapes, and then he goes, and basically the rest of the movie kind of happens. And I'm not going to spoil any more than that. But I do think that if this movie had been entirely from the point of view of Phoenix, and then we find out, oh, she knows the Phantom from 6 months ago or a year ago, and then we get a couple of flashbacks showing the really awesome parts of his origin story, and we cut out like 25 minutes of his origin story, then I think that that would have made for a much better movie. And I think we could have had, if you're cutting out all of that stuff, we could have spent a lot more time getting to know some of these characters and getting to know some of their character motivations. There's a couple of things that the main guy, Swan, does that they don't really make any sense to me. And in order for me to describe what I mean, I would have to spoil some significant parts of the movie, and I'm not going to do that because I really do think you guys should watch this movie and decide for yourselves, is this a good movie, or is this just a very entertaining and interesting movie? And it is kind of sort of a musical, but not in the sense of like Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, where out of nowhere, all 7 or 14 of these characters break out in song that they just made out on the spot, and they are all singing this song together. It's not a musical like that. It's a musical in the sense that these people work in the music industry, and they're up on stage singing a song that they have performed and written and practiced before, and then we're seeing them that song for like 5 minutes or something. And there's several different songs in this movie. Some of them are pretty entertaining and pretty enjoyable, and they will stick in your head. Some of them are not very good. For example, the one that opens the movie. If you can get past it, then you're good. You're fine. But I didn't really like that song. And then there's a couple of other songs in this movie that I really did like. But it's about half and half. And if you're more into music than I am, you may enjoy this movie a lot more. Now, I'm not against music. I like the music that I like, but I'm not very critical of music. Like I said, if it's something that I like, I'll listen to it. But I'm not the kind of person who I don't have to have music really overflowing my movies, if you know what I mean. It's not a situation like a Reese's Cup where, oh, you got music in my movie and it made it better. No, that's okay. I'll listen to my music over here and I'll watch my movies over here. But it wasn't too bad. There was only like 4 or 5 songs in this movie, really, and if they had just cut down some of those songs, not necessarily taken them out completely, but like the first song is, I kid you not, 5 minutes long, and then there's another one that's, I think, about 5 minutes long, and this movie is only an hour and a half long, and so that's a substantial amount of movie time that could have been devoted to, like, for example, finding out why characters do certain things. And again, I'm being very vague because I don't want to spoil stuff, but I feel like this movie, it's very hasty in how it spends its runtime. I think, I don't know how many movies, Brian De Palma. I don't know how many movies Brian De Palma had done before this, but I feel like this almost feels like something that somebody would have done as their first try making a movie, and then later on they would kind of get better at it and they would find out this is what not to do. This almost feels like that. But again, I haven't watched a great deal of movies from the 70s. Maybe this was the norm when you were making a quasi-musical that's talking about the culture of the time. I don't know. I feel like I've talked about this a lot longer than I intended to. It's been 12 minutes, so not as long as I thought. So go watch this movie if you can. It's very interesting. It's very visually stunning. I think the most memorable part about this movie is the design of the Phantom. And that's something that's going to stick with me. If I had watched this movie as a child, first of all, I would have been scarred. And second of all, it's not a super scary movie. There's like one scene that's really, really scary. And it would have been terrifying if I was a kid. But if I had seen this movie when I was younger, the design of the Phantom would have definitely been something I would have remembered for life, and probably still will remember for life. In my opinion, if you compare the Phantom of the Paradise visually with the Phantom of the Opera, the Phantom of the Paradise actually looks cooler. Just my opinion. That's all I have to say. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will talk to you guys again tomorrow. I've got another movie review coming out this week, and then a graphic novel review, and possibly something else. So I will see you guys tomorrow with a different kind of video. So I hope you guys have a great rest of the day. Catch you later.